The words hit me like a thunderclap on a clear summer evening. I had just come home from my first real date in years when my landlady looked up from the porch swing, smiled sadly, and said, "She'll never love you like I do." For a moment, the world seemed to stop. The crickets fell silent. The warm Texas air suddenly felt heavy. And standing there with my car keys still in my hand, I realized those words carried a truth I wasn't ready to face. Before we continue, if you believe in kindness, hope, forgiveness, compassion, and second chances, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs encouragement, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps these stories reach more hearts. My name is Nathan, and 3 years earlier I had arrived in the small town of Georgetown, Texas, carrying everything I owned in the back of an aging pickup truck. Life had fallen apart faster than I ever imagined possible. I had lost my job during a company. Downsizing drained my savings trying to stay afloat, and watched a long-term relationship crumble under the weight of stress and disappointment. By the time I reached Georgetown, I wasn't searching for success anymore. I was simply searching for somewhere to start over. The only place I could afford was a small garage apartment behind a modest White House, owned by a widow named Rebecca Harper. She was in her early 60s, with kind eyes, silver-streaked hair, and the sort of calm presence that made people feel safe without knowing why. At first, she was simply my landlady. Then she became much more. The first winter, when my truck broke down and I couldn't afford repairs, Rebecca quietly drove me to job interviews. When I came home exhausted from working construction shifts, she often left homemade soup outside my door, with a note reminding me not to skip dinner. When my father passed away unexpectedly in Ohio, and I couldn't afford a plane ticket for the funeral, she sat with me on her porch until nearly midnight, listening while I shared stories I hadn't told anyone in years. She never asked for anything in return. She simply showed up. Over time, Rebecca became the closest thing I had to family. Yet because she was my landlady and nearly 30 years older than me, I never stopped to think about how deeply connected our lives had become. I assumed she cared about me the same way a mother might care about a struggling son. Then everything changed. A new employee, named Sarah, joined the engineering firm where I eventually found stable work. She was bright, funny, and full of energy. For the first time in years, I felt hopeful about the possibility of love. After months of conversations and coffee breaks, I finally gathered the courage to ask her out. The date went surprisingly well. We spent hours talking at a riverside restaurant overlooking the San Gabriel River. For the first time in a long while, I felt seen. As I drove home that evening, I couldn't stop smiling. That's when Rebecca spoke those unexpected words, "She'll never love you like I do." At first, I thought she meant something romantic, and the idea shocked me. But when I looked at her face, I saw something else entirely. I saw tears. Not tears of jealousy, tears of fear. For the first time, I realized she was afraid of losing someone she loved. The following weeks felt different. Sarah and I continued seeing each other. We grew closer. At the same time, I noticed Rebecca becoming quieter. She still smiled, still asked about my day, but something had changed. One evening, I found her sitting alone on the porch, staring at an old photograph. For the first time, she told me about her son, Caleb. He had passed away from an illness nearly 15 years earlier. He would have been almost my age. As she shared memories of him, pieces of the puzzle finally came together. The rides to interviews, the meals, the encouragement, the unwavering support. She wasn't trying to replace her son. She was simply allowing herself to love someone again after years of grief. That realization broke my heart. I had spent so much time focused on rebuilding my own life that I hadn't fully seen her loneliness. The next Saturday, I invited Rebecca to lunch with Sarah and me. I wasn't sure how it would go. To my surprise, the two women connected instantly. Sarah listened to Rebecca's stories. Rebecca laughed more than I had seen her laugh in months. By the end of the afternoon, something beautiful had happened. Instead of feeling replaced, Rebecca felt included. Months passed. Life continued moving forward. Sarah and I eventually became engaged. When I told Rebecca, tears filled her eyes once again. But this time, they were tears of joy. She hugged me and whispered that she had prayed for years that I would find happiness. The wedding took place the following spring, beneath a canopy of oak trees outside Austin. Family and friends traveled from across the country, but the most meaningful moment came just before the ceremony. Rather than walking alone to the front, I asked Rebecca to accompany me. The entire audience stood and applauded. Many assumed she was my mother. In many ways she was, not by blood, but by every act of love that truly matters. Years later, Sarah and I welcomed a daughter into the world. When it came time to choose a middle name, the decision was easy. We named her Grace Rebecca Turner. The day we introduced the baby to Rebecca, she held her gently and cried the happiest tears I had ever seen. Before we reach the ending, I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever met someone who wasn't related to you but became family through kindness and love? Leave a comment below and share your story. Today, our daughter is 7 years old. She calls Rebecca Grandma. Every Sunday, we gather around her dining table for dinner. The same woman who once left soup outside my apartment door now watches her honorary granddaughter color pictures across. That very table, sometimes I think back to that summer evening when she told me that no one would ever love me like she did. She was right. Sarah loves me as a wife. My daughter loves me as a father. But Rebecca loved me when I had nothing to offer, nothing to give back, and every reason to be forgotten. Her love arrived in the form of patience, compassion, and quiet acts of service. It helped carry me through the darkest chapter of my life, and guided me toward a future I never thought possible. And maybe that's the lesson hidden inside this story. Sometimes the people who save us are not the ones we expect. Sometimes family arrives without sharing our last name. Sometimes the greatest gift we receive is not romance, success, or wealth, but the simple blessing of someone who refuses to give up on us when life becomes difficult. If this story touched your heart, please support the video with a like, share it with someone special, and subscribe for more inspiring stories. Your engagement helps keep these messages of hope alive. As the sun sets each Sunday over our little corner of Texas, I often watch Rebecca laughing with our daughter and feel overwhelmed with gratitude. Because, in a world that can sometimes feel cold and uncertain, one extraordinary woman taught me that love is not measured by titles, age, or bloodlines. It is measured by who stays. And Rebecca stayed.